All right, man, peace. So it seems as if the Philadelphia 76ers simply cannot draft a player who actually can play in his first year. It seems as if they all have to be redshirted in their real rookie season and then come out the next year and play well. Well, Markelle Fultz is trying to buck that trend. He finally has made his first real appearance as a Philadelphia 76er. In his debut, he had 10 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. He played relatively well. He had a lot of jitters, you could tell. He also had a lot of rust. But what's making the news today is the fact that in the post-game interview that was held near his locker, he refused to answer any questions pertaining to what happened with his shoulder, which caused Mr. Stephen A. Smith to detonate on Markelle Fultz. So, of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Just work hard. I mean, I had to feel comfortable. That's the biggest thing. Nobody wants to be out there uncomfortable. So, just had to get comfortable with myself, and it happened. So.
For more on the Sixers, here's First Take.
Channeling his inner Marshawn Lynch. So we finally saw the Sixers' #1 overall pick, Markelle Fultz, as you just saw on the court last night after missing 68 games. Clearly not talkative after the game. Stephen A., are you okay with how he handled that, not answering any questions about his injury when this is the first time we saw him?
Before Stephen A. Smith answers, before he blows up and ignites, let me first say this about Markelle Fultz. He's been through a lot. It's very clear that he's still emotionally and psychologically scarred by what happened to him. He had high expectations for his rookie year, and whatever happened to his shoulder not only set him back physically, but it set him back mentally. And it seems to be that he just not want to revisit that moment in his life when he could not play basketball, and I'm sure he pretty much started to doubt whether or not he'd ever be able to get past that hurdle. I wonder if the Philadelphia 76ers team psychiatrist may have told him to not even address that time period. And you have that sometimes where people are so fractured, they're so traumatized by a certain event that occurred in their life that they don't even want to talk about it. Does that make it an adequate excuse for him to conduct himself like that in the post-game presser? No, it does not. He has to be more mature than that, and the Sixers have to do a better job of prepping him for those type of situations. So I really blame the Sixers. He's only 19 years old, maybe 20 years old. That's still not an excuse, but he does need to be prepped better, and he has to understand that in life, bad things are going to happen. People are going to try to confront you. They're going to try to pick your brain. They may try to urge you into saying something inflammatory, either about yourself or a teammate, and he has to learn how to navigate those waters.
No, I'm not. It was quite pathetic and insulting, and the nerve of him. You haven't played all year long. Simply looking at the media and telling them, look, I'm not allowed to talk about this. The organization doesn't want me to talk about this. That would have been just fine.
I agree, and that's why I blame the team staff, whoever it was who's supposed to be instructing him on how to interact with the media, the PR director, whoever that is. They need to speak to the PR director so that he can adequately inform Markelle Fultz on how he should proceed in the future, especially since they're building up to the playoffs. But I also suspect that the Sixers have built a cocoon around him. When I say the Sixers, I mean their players have built a cocoon around him, a protective shield around him, because they see how fragile he is and they want to save him possibly from himself.
Brett Brown didn't want to do too much talking about it. Brian Colangelo, the GM, didn't want to do too much talking about it. Here you are, a rookie, wet behind the ears, breath smelling like Similac, ain't done a damn thing all year long, but...
We know he hasn't done anything this season, Stephen A. Smith, but I'm sure that it's not on purpose. I'm pretty sure that he wanted to play well. I'm pretty sure that he's disappointed in his performance in this rookie season. Things happen.
But sit on the bench because your shoulder was messed up, and then you had some guru, a friend of yours, that completely messed up your shot, making it look butt ugly, and you finally get to a point of respectability.
His shot looked almost as ugly as the jump shot that you displayed when you went to the Houston Rockets training facility and started to shoot jump shots with James Harden.
where you're able to step on the court and actually show that you can perform and be worthy or have a chance of being worthy of being the #1 overall pick. A city that supports you, that gives you a standing ovation when you arrive. Folks want to know questions about your injury or how you felt or whatever the case may be, and your answer is to ignore the media as if you're some entitled individual. Good luck with your future in Philadelphia. Max, I think even you would defer to my level of expertise on this.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, the topic is not about you. The topic is about Markelle Fultz. And I know that you love to praise and laud yourself pertaining to your alleged expertise in basketball in the city of Philadelphia. He made a misstep. I don't think that it's necessary to detonate on him to this degree, but I know that you have to, once again, try to promote yourself. But no, the kid is only 19, 20 years old. He'll learn. Hopefully they'll take him aside and tell him that that was not the best way. You cannot ignore things that you don't like for your whole life. Sometimes that method does work well. But when it comes to a situation where you're going to continuously be confronted with the same dynamic, that being getting interviewed by the sports media, you are going to have to develop a better technique than to just not answer questions that you don't like. I mean, unless you're going to be an Eddie Murray, like Eddie Murray was, the former first baseman for the Baltimore Orioles and the LA Dodgers and the New York Mets, who just went his whole career not talking to the media, or Marshawn Lynch. I mean, who knows?
On this subject, who worked in Philadelphia for 17 years? Who knows this city? You understand the pulse of this city.
Yeah, you worked in Philadelphia for 17 years, most likely kissing every white behind you could at that newspaper location that you were at.
You go right ahead,
I don't think you need to work there for 17 years to know this.
And there you go, and be the fool that you were last night and act that way towards the media. It'll get to a point where you're begging them to ask you about basketball because they'll watch everything you do, everywhere you go, who you're with, what you're doing, and they'll say, would you like us to ask you about basketball now?
Is it really necessary to threaten the boy like that, Stephen A. Smith? And I call him a boy. I don't say that in a condescending way. I say that because he still has a lot of growing up to do. It's not to be denigrating at all. He's still a young man. He has to mature. I understand that Stephen A. Smith is annoyed by it. I don't think that much of Stephen A. Smith's vitriol is meant purely at Markelle Fultz. I think that what Markelle Fultz did resonates in Stephen A. Smith's mind as something that Marshawn Lynch would do. And for those of you who remember, Stephen A. Smith came out very ardently against Marshawn Lynch a few years ago. Very ardently. He's been very frustrated by the fact that athletes have started to take over their own method for expressing themselves, their viewpoints, and their perspectives via social media or on Derek Jeter's website, the Players Tribune, and it's rendered much of the print media somewhat invalid and obsolete. And that bothers Stephen A. Smith, that he cannot control the flow of information like he once could 20 years ago.
It's just the stupidest thing that I've seen from a young athlete in quite some time. Young, wet behind the ears, breath smelling like Similac, ain't done a damn thing. I don't know what you've done, and you're going to literally sit there and ignore people like you are entitled?
Well, he must have done something, Stephen A. Smith. He didn't come here from out of nowhere. He was drafted #1 in the NBA draft. So he must have accomplished something. We know he hasn't done anything in the NBA yet, but he's done a little bit.
Have you lost your damn mind? Somebody needs to talk to him. Brian Colangelo, Brett Brown, you know, the list goes on and on. I won't name the folks, but we all know how connected I am to Philadelphia, okay? It was a stupid thing for him to do. And good luck in the future, because you have now raised the eyebrows of the media in Philadelphia.
I would say that it was unwise. I wouldn't call it stupid per se. I think that he was confronted with a very awkward situation and he wasn't quite sure how to handle it well, and he did so in an unwise manner. I view the term or the word stupid to be something that should be associated with proactive conduct, not reactive conduct. I think that people react in an unwise way, but their conduct in a proactive way can be considered stupid. Because proactivity, what that implies is forethought. he was put in a situation where he most likely should have thought about how he was going to answer, but I don't think that he was truly mentally prepared. And that's why I blame the Philadelphia 76ers PR staff.
This ain't Utah or someplace like that. One of them kind, tranquil environments, rife with peace and beautiful scenery and all. This is a blue-collar city. You act like that, you better have a game to back it up. And last time I checked, Markelle Fultz, we don't know what kind of game you have.
We know it's better than yours.
On this level, because last night was the first time we saw you behind. The nerve of this kid. He should be ashamed of himself for acting that way. Somebody needs to talk to him.
Well, I think you just did, Stephen A. Smith.
And he needs to make amends for that one.
I don't know, Stephen A. Maybe it was really smart of him, because now that he gave that answer, probably they won't ask anymore. You know, probably they'll all just go away. If you wanted to go away, why would you give that non-answer? Just stare someone. Now, maybe, listen, we could be misinterpreting this. Maybe he's a deer in the headlights, and it comes...
That's my take on it, Max Kellerman. I think that he was just woefully unprepared. I know that might sound strange. One may say to themselves, why would he not think that they're going to ask him about his shoulder after his first game back? Well, look, he's 19, 20 years old. Now, if he continues on this tactic, then I will consider him stupid. And his tactics stupid. And that would mean that the Philadelphia 76ers would have to expedite his instruction on how to interact with the media, because they will eat him alive, especially in cities like Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, LA. They will eat him alive. If you're mentally weak, if you're mentally weak, a lot of different aspects of life will eat you alive. So they have to help him out.
Comes off as arrogant, but in fact he's not sure in that moment how to handle it. I was told don't say anything, and so he handles it like that. That's possible. I would say that any comparison to Marshawn Lynch is really misplaced. Marshawn Lynch had already balled till he was called beast mode, and then when he was asked about it after he was an established star, when he would be asked about something and he didn't want to answer, he'd say, I'm just about that action, boss. Like, everything about Marshawn Lynch made him a fan favorite, even in his ignoring the media. I bring this up all the time when I compare, like, Popovich to Belichick. There's some people who can do that to the media and make it charming. Marshawn Lynch is one of those guys.
Well, there's nothing charming to me about Popovich. I think that Popovich is a bit of an actor. And, that's okay, as long as he coaches extremely well. But there is certainly an air of being patronizing that I find distasteful about Popovich. And he's allowed to get away with being rude, where very few others will be allowed to do such things, especially in how he treats the sideline reporters. And it's funny to me because he talks to the female sideline reporters like they're pieces of shit and nobody says anything.
It's charming. Markelle Fultz in this came off, as you said, as young, entitled, and really naive if he thinks that that's actually going to make things go away.
Well, you would expect him to be naive at 20 years old. That's what you would expect. Once again, that's why I blame the Philadelphia 76ers PR staff.
So I would hold open the possibility that as a young kid, the #1 draft pick, all these expectations, he's kind of a deer in the headlights, and he's maybe overwhelmed by the moment. I want to point out, too, Sam Hinkie, who was derided by many Stephen A. Smiths for the process, is, because of him, they have Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. And anyone who says, well, anyone could have had Embiid, he was the 3rd pick, #3, because of injury concerns. Brian Colangelo's had one major decision to make as Sixers boss so far in terms of the draft. He selected Markelle Fultz over Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Josh Jackson, Kyle Kuzma, Dennis Smith Jr., Lonzo Ball. All these. Now, a lot of that I get is the injury, but also...
A lot of that also is what they needed at that position. They didn't need a point guard. They needed a shooting guard. So how many other shooting guards were available in the draft ahead of him? Now, Donovan Mitchell is kind of a tweener. Lonzo's not a shooting guard. Josh Jackson is viewed as a forward. So they didn't really need any of those players. They needed a shooting guard who could hopefully in the future stretch the floor. Now, that seems like a far-out concept when you look at Markelle Fultz right now as a player who struggles to make mid-range jumpers. But who knows how far he can go once he gets past this psychological hurdle.
Also, it looks like a kind of broken shot. And, there were times where it was unbelievably bad looking, that shot earlier in this season. And now this with the attitude. Again, if this is a deer in the headlights thing because he mishandled the situation, I hope that's the case. But if it's kind of young, arrogant, entitled thing, boy, that's bad considering you haven't played all season.
Well, like I said, it's Philadelphia. And I'm going to say that one more time. It's Philadelphia. You don't play that nonsense in the city of Philadelphia, bro.
All right.
I promise you, his game better be all that they projected it would be. When you act like that, let's put it to you this way. Allen Iverson.
I knew he was going to bring up Iverson. This dude always has to bring up Allen Iverson.
Barely acted like that.
Yeah, Allen didn't act like that. All he did was have helicopters flying over his goddamn house.
Allen Iverson used to talk to the media all the time. You understand? And even if he had something to say that you didn't like, you loved him because he always has something to say. You understand? He didn't, he didn't act like that. I'm talking to Allen Iverson. You understand? That didn't happen. Markelle Fultz, good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Oh, by the way, and Max, where am I going to pay a visit to? Come on now. I mean, where did I work at for years? They in the playoffs now. Where am I going to pay attention to?
Okay, so then go pay a visit, nigga. Like, what? Stephen A. Smith act like everybody's supposed to be scared of him. What you gonna do? You gonna pistol whip him with your microphone? Like, come on.
Good luck. Good luck. I know all of these people in Philadelphia in the media. Good luck. By the way, had a game to back this up.
Sorry, Mike.
Better had a game.
Sorry, I was just going to say quickly, and we'll get to it, I'm sure, at a later date, but we can question the wisdom of even activating him and giving him significant minutes coming up.
I think that they did the right thing, and they did it the right way. To have him come back at the end of the season, have these last 10 or 11 games, how many games are left, act as a precursor to build up his wind, his energy, his verve, his ability to cope with the speed of the game. And in the playoffs, it's going to be what it's going to be. There's no pressure on the Philadelphia 76ers this year to even win one round. The only way that it would be a disappointment is if they got swept.
Under these pressurized circumstances.
Yeah, let's talk about it. All right, so they got Fultz back. The Sixers looking strong heading into the playoffs. Trust the process, baby. Stephen A., are they real threats?
Well, first of all, I would deeply appreciate it in all seriousness if everybody. I would ask that no one bring up the process to me.
No, I'm going to continue to bring it up.
I have nothing but love for you and Max. Sports and people like that. I love my colleagues, and I really don't want to cuss people out. I really, really don't. The process is something.
Stephen A. Smith, stop talking shit. You know damn well you ain't gonna cuss nobody out. You talking all that shit, and you scared of your shadow, bro. All they have to do is bring in Michelle Beadle, and you'll put your head right in between your legs. Because she's the one who got you suspended last time. You ain't gonna cuss no damn body out, especially not for using the term process. Let's knock it off.
It's something I despise. Because I don't know of any black man that would be allowed to lose for 3 years on purpose.
Okay.
That's more than fair. That's more than fair. I will definitely give you that one, Stephen A. Smith. Look at Max Kellerman's face. Max Kellerman's like, Negro, please. You're so much sugar. Oy vey.
Okay, that's
continue
fair.
to work.
I'll give you that.
I don't
right.
play that game.
I get
I
that's
despise the process. And I'm saying this not to y'all. I'm saying it to the city of Philadelphia because I'm there all the time. I don't want people walking up the street. I'm telling you, I'm gonna cuss people out. I don't want the organization saying it. I don't want fans of Philadelphia saying it. I don't want to hear it.
Now you just got finished telling Markelle Fultz that the fans of Philadelphia are nothing to play with, and now you want people to believe that you're going to curse somebody out because they walk up to you and say, trust the process. I guarantee you that you ain't going to curse anybody out, Stephen A. Smith. I'm sure of that. All you're going to do is wear a cap low over your head and hope that nobody notices you. So just knock it off. But you do make a great point. There's no way that they would have a so-called black man as general manager and he would be allowed to prohibitively hamstring his own team for 3+ years and have the nerve to coin it, trust the process. No way in the world.
I can't stand it. That's number one. Number two, the Philadelphia 76ers absolutely can be a threat with Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. They're big time. I think they're getting out of the first round. They'll be in the semis, and then they'll probably go home. But I will give them a...
It depends on who they draw. I would love to see them play the Cleveland Cavaliers because I think that they could beat Cleveland. Would I pick them? No. But would it shock me if they beat Cleveland? No, it would not.
A first-round series win. I don't think they're going home in the first round. I think they're going to be successful in that first-round matchup. Then after that, they're going to have to go against one of those top two teams in the East, and I think that that's where it will end for them. But they're going to be very, very interested. I can see them winning in the first round, and I can see them taking a semifinal series 6 or 7 games.
And I could see why Paul Pierce thinks that if Markelle Fultz is the real deal, they can get to the conference finals.
Absolutely. Paul Pierce came out and basically reiterated the same sentiments that I've been putting forth for most of this season, which is that the Philadelphia 76ers are a problem. And they are a serious threat. All they need is someone who can make mid-range jumpers and long-range jumpers and who can create his own shot in the mid-range or in the long range. And with Markelle Fultz, hopefully, he'll be somebody who can bring some diversity in that area. Now, I'm not expecting him to be a dead-eye jump shooter. This was a guy who, he looked like he had Tourette syndrome trying to shoot a couple of months ago. Now he's kind of smoothed out his form a little bit. But you have J.J. Redick, you have Covington, you have some guys who can space the floor a little bit. With Ben Simmons, you have basically a LeBron James light, and you have Joel Embiid, who's probably the best big man in the Eastern Conference. So they're gonna give whoever they face in the first round, they're gonna give them a serious run. I could see Cleveland trying to avoid them.
I don't think they'll get there. Like you, Stephen A., what I really see, other than the lack of a real deep bench, and still they need some more shooters, they also need some more experience. You know, when Magic Johnson had that unbelievable rookie season, he had, at that point in time, maybe the greatest player who ever played the game in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Well, one of them, right there with Wilt. I don't know if I would have considered Kareem the greatest of all time at that point, but he would have been right there with Wilt and Bill Russell. I don't think that he would have been discernibly better than them yet, though.
In an MVP season, and still they needed a lot of help, right? Still they brought in McAdoo, and they had, Jamal Wilkes and Norm Nixon and everything. It's hard to even get to a conference finals, let alone get to a championship or win one.
Agreed.
And I don't think they have the experience, but it's not impossible, because that's how special Ben Simmons is, and that's how special Joel Embiid is.
Agreed. I think that they have the opportunity, as long as they value each other, which as a team you must value each other's. Being on a team is very much akin to being a part of a family. That's why it's so easy for these organizations to convince their players that they're actually members of a real family. Because the kinship between the team dynamic and the family dynamic is very similar, but it's not identical. That's why professional athletes are not supposed to buy into that paradigm that they're actually a member of a family, because they're not. Because you can't get traded away from your family, at least not if they love you. And, for all intents and purposes, the love that you receive from your team only exists while you're there. No, point being is this: as long as they love to play with each other and they value their fellow teammate, the sky's the limit for Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. They can be this generation's Penny Hardaway and Shaq, or Steph Marbury and Kevin Garnett. What could have been, what should have been, what might have been. They have the chance to rectify those type of could have beens. But we'll see.
Embiid's long-term health is a question, and with a big guy, you always have to see how does he win the war of attrition in the NBA over time, even in this NBA where it's more three-point shooting and less back to the basket stuff. That still means the centers are running around a lot, and that can be wear and tear in a different way on them. But in the short term, provided health, boy, that's not a team anyone's going to want to see. We see it the same way around the second round. I think around the second round, but they are live.
Yeah, but you're thinking more highly about the 76ers than I do because of Ben Simmons. Joel Embiid, yes. I love Ben Simmons. I think Ben Simmons is going to be a superstar in this league, but not now.
And plus, in the playoffs, he's going to have to make free throws. And in the playoffs, where they have an opportunity to game plan for you, they're going to make him have to beat them with his weaknesses. So they're going to try to take away the drive and make him shoot from mid-range. They're going to foul him a lot and make him make free throws. The playoffs are not where you want to be if you have any weaknesses that are extremely apparent. And Ben Simmons has a couple of weaknesses that are extremely apparent, which is that he is not a good mid-range to long-range jump shooter. As a matter of fact, he's terrible, and he's also not a good free throw shooter. That's another reason why it's important for Markelle Fultz to come back, because he has to provide some mid-range jump shooting, which is a lot of pressure for somebody who is coming off of a psychological issue with his jump shot.
Because of two reasons: his perimeter shooting and his free throw shooting.
Ding.
And when the playoffs come, the game slows down and you have time to prepare in a best of 7 series, and you're going to see people sending him to the line more and making him shoot perimeter shots more.
Absolutely.
And when that happens, he's going to struggle. And as a result, everybody around him is going to struggle, because he's the creator, he's the orchestrator, he's the extension of the coach on the floor. And you need him to be able to be a threat from the perimeter and from the free throw line. Once that happens with Ben Simmons, Max, it's another level, it's another day. The Sixers could potentially win a championship.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny. I was just thinking about this last night when I was watching the 76er highlights. Ben Simmons is a jump shot and a free throw shot away from going from one of the top 30 or 35 players in the NBA to one of the top 5 potentially players in the NBA because of what he can do all around. This is a guy who can easily average a triple-double if he wants to. Easily. I mean, he's literally a free throw shot and a jump shot away from jumping about 25 to 30 spots in the NBA rankings of best players.
Totally agree with that, except I'll say
not
this.
Before you hit those free throws.
I totally agree with that.
57%
Simmons is so good. Simmons is so good, if he never gets a perimeter shot, he can still win an MVP. That's how good he is if he stays.
I don't know about that. I think that if he never gets a free throw shot or a jump shot, he can still make the Hall of Fame if he continues to progress over the next 15 years. If he becomes a guy who's going to give you 19 points, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds every year for the next 12 years, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, yeah.
He stays healthy.
All right, we got to leave it there.
But anyway, that's it on Mr. Markelle Fultz, as well as the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll see what lies in store for the both of them in the playoffs. But anyway, peace.